I've learned to carry myself with a certain calm. When people meet me now, they see the polished version, heels that click confidently across marble floors, a silk blouse that never wrinkles, and a smile that reveals nothing I don't want it to. But behind that practiced calm, there are truths I've never spoken aloud. The kind that sting when you're alone with your thoughts at night. That morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows of my downtown office, painting gold streaks across the glass desk. I was reviewing contracts, sipping coffee that had already gone cold, when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. My calendar was packed, and distractions rarely earned my time. Then I saw the name.
Mom.
My hand hovered, the familiar ache pressing against my ribs. Years of silence, punctuated only by brief, brittle conversations. Still, her name flashing across my screen felt like a ripple across a calm lake, pulling me back to places I thought I'd outgrown. I answered, voice steady. Her words came quickly, sharper than I expected. We're in town. Your father, your sister, and I. We'd like to see you. Just like that, my walls trembled. I leaned back in my chair, nails tracing the edge of the armrest. After everything, after years of always being the one blamed, dismissed, overshadowed, they wanted to see me? And I knew, deep down, this meeting wouldn't just be about them. It would be about the woman I had become in spite of them. I wasn't always this composed. There was a time when even the smallest disagreement at home felt like the end of the world. I grew up in a quiet suburb of Ohio, in a house with white shutters and a porch swing that never seemed to stop creaking. From the outside, we looked like the picture-perfect family. But inside, there was an imbalance that shaped every breath I took. My sister, Emily, was the golden child. She had opinions about everything, from what curtains we should hang in the living room to where we'd vacation that summer, and somehow, those opinions became gospel. Whenever we disagreed, it didn't matter if I had facts, logic, or even common sense on my side. My parents always nodded along with Emily, their voices layering over mine until I felt invisible. I still remember one night when I was 17. Dinner had turned into another battlefield. Emily insisted I should apply to the same local college she planned to attend, so we could stick together. I wanted something different, New York, business school, the kind of life that scared me because it was bigger than anything my parents had ever imagined. When I voiced it, my father's fork clattered against his plate. Why can't you just listen for once? Your sister's right. You don't know what's best for you. The words sank deep, and my throat burned as I tried to swallow them. I excused myself before the tears spilled, hands shaking as I gripped the banister upstairs. That night, I found myself in my grandmother's room. She was the only one who ever seemed to see me. She sat me down, pressing a small silver locket into my palm. "Don't let anyone write your story for you, Claire," she whispered, her voice soft but steady. "Inside this is space for a picture of your choosing. One day, when you've built a life that's truly yours, you'll know what belongs there." The locket felt cool against my skin, but her words burned warm in my chest. By the time I closed my bedroom door, I had made a decision. If no one believed in me at home, I'd find a way to believe in myself. That was the night I decided to leave. Not just the house, but the shadow I'd been living in. Leaving home wasn't cinematic. It wasn't a suitcase on the porch and a dramatic goodbye. It was quieter than that. Me slipping out at dawn 2 weeks after graduation, the locket tucked beneath my shirt, my bus ticket folded carefully inside my wallet. I remember the cool morning air brushing against my skin, and how my hands trembled as though they knew life would never be the same again. New York was louder than I'd imagined. The streets never slept, and neither, it seemed, did I. My first job was at a cramped coffee shop near Midtown. The hours were brutal, and my feet blistered in cheap shoes, but every tip I tucked into a jar felt like proof I could stand on my own. I enrolled in night classes at a community college, choosing business administration, even though my parents had mocked the idea. I sat at the back, scribbling notes furiously, often fighting to stay awake after 12-hour shifts. One evening, while cleaning tables, I met Marianne. She was a regular, always dressed in tailored suits, carrying leather-bound folders that smelled faintly of ink and ambition. She noticed the textbooks I'd left by the register. "You're studying business?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," I said, voice timid but honest. "Good. You'll need it. Women don't get the luxury of half-preparedness in this world." From that night on, Marianne became more than a customer. She became a mentor. She invited me to shadow her at her firm on weekends, teaching me what no textbook ever could: how to negotiate without blinking, how to walk into a room and claim space, how to use both silence and speech as tools. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, overwhelmed by exhaustion, haunted by the old voices in my head that said I'd never be enough. But then there were small victories that fueled me. The first time a professor praised my case study, the first time Mary entrusted me with drafting a proposal, the first freelance client who paid me more money than I had ever held in my hands. By the time I graduated, I had saved enough to launch a modest consulting startup. I rented a tiny office with peeling paint and a squeaky elevator, but to me, it was sacred ground. Each client I landed felt like a step further away from the girl who had once been silenced at her family's dinner table. Still, I kept my success quiet. My parents and Emily thought I was barely getting by. On social media, I posted simple updates: a photo of coffee, a blurry skyline, a generic busy day caption. I avoided anything that might hint at the truth, because part of me wasn't ready to reveal it yet. I wanted my empire to be unshakable before I let them see it. I wanted them to walk into my world one day and realize, in a single glance, that the girl they dismissed had built something far larger than their imagination ever allowed. And I was getting closer. Every sleepless night, every signed contract, every quiet win was building toward that moment. When my parents said they wanted to see me, I agreed. Not because I craved reconciliation, but because I felt something shifting inside me. For years, I had built this life in silence. Now, maybe it was time for them to see who I had become. The day they arrived, the city air was crisp, carrying the smell of roasted chestnuts from the street vendors below. My office sat on the 27th floor of a glass tower overlooking Manhattan. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched behind my desk, framing a skyline I'd once only dreamed of. I prepared deliberately. The silver locket rested against my collarbone, hidden but present. A vase of white lilies sat on the corner of my desk, their fragrance calming my nerves. On the walls hung abstract art I'd chosen during my first profitable year, pieces that reminded me of the chaos and beauty of the journey. When the elevator dinged, I rose to my feet. They stepped out, my mother in her familiar beige cardigan, my father stiff in his navy blazer, Emily trailing slightly behind, scrolling her phone as though even now she needed to signal her importance. Their eyes scanned the space, confusion flickering first, then disbelief. This is your office?" my mother asked, her voice hesitant. "Yes," I said simply, watching the way my father's jaw tightened. Emily finally looked up from her phone. "Wait, you work here? Like, as an assistant?" I almost laughed.
"No, Emily.
"I own the firm." The silence that followed was heavy. My father blinked, as though I'd spoken in another language. My mother's lips parted, but no words came. And Emily, my ever-confident sister, stood frozen, for once without an opinion ready to fling at me. I walked them further in, letting their eyes take in every detail: the polished conference table, the city skyline, the awards displayed in glass cases. "This firm consults for companies across the country," I continued, my voice calm, but edged with something firmer. "I built it from nothing. Every late night, every risk, every moment you all doubted me, it led here." My father finally found his voice. You never told us." "Would it have mattered?" I asked, meeting his eyes. "You never listened when I tried. You only ever heard Emily." My mother lowered herself into a chair, hands trembling. We thought you were struggling." I admitted. "At first. But struggle isn't failure, it's growth. And while you were busy dismissing me, I was learning how to stand without you." Emily crossed her arms, but I saw the cracks forming in her expression. "So, what, you're just successful now? Out of nowhere?" I smiled faintly. Not out of nowhere. Out of years you never cared to ask about. The room felt suspended, the weight of truth pressing into every corner. For the first time, I wasn't the younger daughter scrambling for recognition. I was the woman who had built an empire, standing firmly in her own story. I let the silence linger, giving them space to absorb it.
To absorb me.
Finally, I leaned against my desk, arms crossed casually. This is who I am now. The girl you overlooked, underestimated, and blamed. She doesn't exist anymore. You're looking at the woman she became. Their faces, shame, guilt, disbelief, were almost a mirror of my own past. But unlike then, I felt no trembling in my hands, no lump in my throat. Only a steady, grounded strength. For the first time in my life, they were the ones speechless. And I was the one they had to listen to. I could have ended the meeting there, basked in their stunned silence, and sent them back out into the world with nothing but their regret to keep them company. But that wasn't what I wanted. I hadn't built my life on bitterness, and I wasn't going to start now. Still, I also wasn't going to slip back into old patterns, the girl who bent, who apologized, who settled for scraps of attention. That version of me had been buried years ago. I took a slow breath, fingers brushing against the locket hidden beneath my blouse, and spoke. You wanted to see me. Now you've seen me. But if you want to be part of my life from this point forward, things will have to change. My mother's eyes lifted, watery with guilt. My father's brow furrowed, defensive already. Emily looked restless, as if no one had ever dared to place boundaries around her. For you, Mom, I said gently, I need honesty. No more pretending everything is fine. No more glossing over pain just to keep peace. If you want to be in my world, I need the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. She nodded quickly, almost desperately, as though afraid I'd take even that sliver of hope away. I turned to my father. For you, Dad, I need respect. Not obedience, not agreement, just respect. You taught me to stand on my own by never standing with me. If you want a relationship now, it has to be built on seeing me as your equal, not your disappointment. His face tightened, but he said nothing. Silence was a better answer than the scorn he'd once thrown so easily. Then, finally, Emily, my sister, who had always been the sun in my parents' sky, while I was left to orbit in shadows. And for you, Emily, I need space. Space for you to figure out who you are, without leaning on the pedestal they built for you. If you want to stay in my life, you'll have to meet me as a sister, not as a rival, not as someone above me. Her mouth opened, then closed again. For once, she had no quick retort, no sharp edge to her words. I'm not asking for perfection, I continued, my voice even. But I am asking for growth. If you can't give me that, then this. I gestured to the walls, the skyline, the empire around me. Is all you'll ever see of me. A glimpse from the outside. The weight of my words settled in. I didn't feel cruel or vindictive. I felt steady, compassionate, even but uncompromising. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one asking to be included. They were the ones waiting for permission to stay. In the weeks that followed, I wasn't sure what to expect. Old habits are hard to break, and my family had been living in theirs for decades. But slowly, hesitantly, I began to see changes. My mother was the first. She called me one evening, her voice softer than I'd ever remembered. Not with criticism, not with judgment, but with a simple question. How was your day? It was clumsy, awkward even, but it was real. And for the first time, I let her in. My father took longer. His pride was a fortress I never thought I'd see breached. But one Sunday afternoon, he sent me an email, short, plain, almost painfully direct. I read about your firm in the paper. I'm proud of you. I stared at those words for what felt like hours. The same man who once told me I didn't know what was best for myself, now admitting he was wrong. And Emily, she surprised me most of all. Instead of defiance, she came with questions. About business. About life. About how I found courage when she had always been shielded. For the first time, we spoke as sisters, equals, not competitors. Through it all, I carried the locket. One quiet night, sitting by my window overlooking the city. I finally opened it. My hands trembled as I slid inside a picture, not of my family, not of my company, but of me. Me at 22, standing in front of the tiny, peeling office where it all began. Eyes tired, but burning with determination. That girl deserved a place close to my heart. I touched the silver frame, whispering the words my grandmother once gave me. Don't let anyone write your story for you. And I hadn't. Looking back now, I don't carry resentment. The pain shaped me, but it didn't define me. What defines me is the choice I made to rise, to fight, to build. And the grace to allow those who once silenced me to find their voices in new, better ways. So when people ask me how I did it, how I became the woman I am today, I smile. Because the truth is simple. My parents always chose my sister's opinion and blamed me, so I decided to choose myself.